I'm Pat Turner in Vacaville, California on August 27th, 2008. I am documenting a quilt made by Mrs. Jeanette Rivers of Zachary, Louisiana at the time that she made this quilt. She was also born in Louisiana in 1922. She spent some of her adult life in California. There's a fuller account of Mrs. Rivers' life in Crafted Lives, Stories and Studies of African American Quilters. I want to talk about this quilt as a real exemplar of many aspects of Mrs. Rivers' quilt making. First of all, it's got the kind of simple blocks that she prefers to work with. She does the four patch, which you can see here, examples of the four patch, alternating with one patch blocks. There are 120 of these blocks total. They are 9 by 9 roughly in dimension. She likes bright colors, and as we walk around this quilt, you'll see lots of pinks and corals, mustard, red, lots of contrast. She uses a Halloween novelty fabric here in this one patch, and then picks that up again over here with this four patch where the novelty fabric alternates with a kind of a lemon yellow fabric. Although there are many patterns in the fabric that she uses, here are some plaids. By far the dominant motif that you see in her printed fabric choice is flowers. That's because Mrs. Rivers loves flowers. She loves flowers in her garden. She loves flowers in her home, including lots of plastic flowers. She uses flowers to great advantage, or a flowered fabric to great advantage, on the back of the quilt, which is really quite stunning. One piece of fabric that has a black background, and then these large-scale bouquets of flowers all throughout this back. You can see that if we go to one of the darker fabrics, like this green here, this is hand sewn. Again, Mrs. Rivers was 81 when she made this quilt. So it's done by hand. Most of these fabrics are cottons, but there are some synthetic fabrics contained within the quilt. At this corner here, this blue is a synthetic fabric. Also, I'm going to move towards the top of the quilt here. This top border is also a synthetic fabric. So in the choice of these simple blocks, hand sewn, bright colors, lots of a variety of floral fabrics incorporated, we really get a quilt that exemplifies Mrs. Rivers' overall style. The quilt measures roughly 104 by 105. Mrs. Rivers' preferred way of showing off one of her quilts, if you have the privilege like I have of going to her home and seeing them, she has a bed that she spreads them out on to show them to their best advantage. This bed that I have this quilt on is a king-sized bed. I think you can see that the quilt covers the bed quite well. Sleeping under this quilt on this bed would be quite comfortable, particularly on a cold night. This is the quilt made at the end of 2003, beginning of 2004. mailed to me from Zachary, Louisiana, by way of Carol Hall, who was a research assistant working with me on this quilter project at this time. She went to Mrs. Rivers' house and collected the quilt, and I got this wonderful surprise gift in the mail in 2004.